Hey there. I am opening up my whiskey so that I can get ready. I have to get ready for Chuck. This is my first interview series. He's agreed to be my guinea pig, and so I've got to break out a bottle of whiskey. This is 0114. So I've been thinking about turning the comments off. I'm not sure. I'm torn. So I want to make sure that I'm giving Chuck the attention that he needs, and I don't want to be distracted, and I want to make sure I talk with him, and I'm thinking of turning off the comments, and then I'll turn them back on at the end if we have time, because I have a lot of questions that I want to talk with him about. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the questions open. I'm going to keep the comments open right now, but if there are trolls, if anyone decides to be an asshole, I will turn the comments off, assuming I figure out how to do that. I'm not entirely sure. I think I can turn them off. But anyway, you can say hello, but I probably won't answer questions from the comments right now because I want to make sure that I get through all of the cool stuff that I want to talk to Chuck about. Also, I was going to wear real clothes, but I only have like 8 outfits here with me because I'm on lockdown in France. And I thought, well, then I'll have to like try and change my outfits for each week. We have such a good lineup of guests. And I thought, oh no, I should probably just wear my official robe instead. So that way I can just be the same version of myself in each one. So let's see. I'm going to see if I don't want to turn the comments off because I like engaging with you guys. I like seeing your little faces, your little emojis and everything. Yes, this is my quarantine chic look. Thank you. This is the most comfortable robe in the entire world, and I'm so, so grateful for it. And it has a hood, which I won't put up because I actually pinned my hair back because apparently guys, male authors have quarantine beard and I have quarantine bangs. They're just absolutely gone. I can't deal with them. I can't be bothered. So anyway, Chuck is going to join us in a couple minutes. Chuck is one of my oldest writing friends. I was so excited when he agreed to be my first guinea pig, guest. He's an absolute delight. I see we have people coming in from all over the world, which is terribly exciting. I can't wait. Where is everybody from? All right, we've got UK, we've got India. I saw Spain. I want to make sure everyone's being safe and careful. Hi, Zoraida. I want you all to be taking care of yourselves. Are you being good? Are you doing everything that you need to do to feel taken care of, to feel like there's self-care and there's breathing and there's chocolate or whiskey or whatever it is that you need in there? Serbia, Germany, Portugal, New York, Texas. Oh, thank you all so much for coming out. This is my tonight. For some of you it's today. For some of you it's even later tonight, it looks like. For San Diego it's early, so thank you for spending your after lunchtime. I am so bad at math. Also, I see some of you have brownies and chocolate, and I think that's a pretty good way to pass this time period that we're in. I'm trying to make the whiskey last on. Here's Chuck. Let's see if we can get him. Let's see. We're going to get him. I know we're going to get him. We're waiting for him to accept, it says. I don't know how technology works. I'm one of those millennials. Let's see. It's going to work. It's going to work. I swear. Watch this be the time that it doesn't work. Come on. We're waiting for Chuck. Don't know why it says that, but we're going to get him here. It took me a couple minutes, a couple nights ago when I did my thing on Inverse. I had to go out and come back in, but yeah, okay. This is why we start these things a few minutes early. Hold on, I have my questions and stuff up over to the side like a professional. Let's see, Chuck. Where are you? Uh-oh, Chuck went away. Okay, wait. Chuck Wendig. I'm gonna get him. Hold on. I'm gonna kidnap Chuck. It says waiting. Aha! There you are.
It happened.
Yeah. Where are you? Are you in your yard?
I'm in my yard because it's kind of nice out and there's no children out here.
I love it. I spent a lot of today out in my yard because I was like, oh, spring.
Right?
It's
happening. There's like color. That's nice.
Yeah. I love it. It reminds you kind of that the world goes on. Like we're finally in the season of bird song.
Right. And that may happen while we're out here.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Song.
I was just opening my whiskey to be ready for you.
Ooh, I have this.
What did you choose?
I chose there's a like Aperol Campari. Like
yeah.
So this is a company out of Brooklyn called Inferno Bitters. So I just did this in some lime juice and pineapple juice, and
I love it. I mean, it is slightly earlier where you are, so I'm very
it's a little earlier.
Drinking with me.
Yeah, I'm not rolling quite whiskey hard yet.
I mean, it's like 9 o'clock here, so I gotta. I'm like well into my whiskey night. Also, we have more than 500 people already with us, which is so exciting.
What?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
People came out to hear you talk.
I don't know why, but I mean, I appreciate it.
I have so many questions, Chuck. Also, I just want to say thank you for being my guinea pig. I mean, first guest.
Am I really your first guest?
Yeah, you're my inaugural guest.
Oh, I'm so excited.
What's so exciting is we have like the whole next 3 months set up, and I'm so excited by the lineup, but I couldn't think of anyone I wanted to start with more than you. Like, you've been a dear friend for so long. I feel like we belong to the secret club of writers. People are convinced there's a secret club.
I like it. We're very secret, but with 500 people watching.
Exactly. I feel like the secret club is just that we've survived. So,
there is, but there's like an institutional, like we're just clinging to the beast as it walks. And
I mean, we've just been in it a long time. So look, I want to dive in. Are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready. I'm good. Let's do it.
As people actually, maybe we should give them like a 2 minutes because it's only it's exactly at the top of the hour right now. You can tell
this is why you're good at this.
I'm brand new to this.
Yeah.
Well, let's.
Do I have dogs? You want to see my dogs?
Yeah, let me see your dogs.
Where are they at? Where are they at? They're here somewhere.
Your dogs are better behaved than mine.
Yeah. Dog. Hello.
Who is this? Oh my god. Okay.
And that's Loa.
Is this the new shed?
That is the new shed. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That is absolutely the new shed. Can you see that? Okay. Yeah. There you
go.
Yeah. There it is.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Well, look, no, Chuck. So I first approached you when I was thinking about doing this as a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I've been planning, for those who don't know, been planning No Right Way for months now. And then everyone on my team was like, please don't do that. You have books and a TV show and movies and all these things to write. And podcasting is a huge undertaking.
It is. It's like, I've done the podcast thing and it's a lot. And thankfully, other people kind of handled the hard stuff, but you need people to handle the hard stuff.
It's so much work. And then the pandemic happened and, we became virtual. And I thought, what I like even more than talking to my author friends is seeing their faces.
Yes.
So this was even better.
Really good. Yeah.
And this will be for everyone, because everyone's been asking, this will be saved to my Instagram homepage under highlights. So it will live there permanently because it can't live on your page. It turns out only the host can
that's okay.
have it live.
I don't want to be responsible for anything right now.
I don't want to either. This is my lowest common denominator of work. This is my
and then a phone. And then
exactly. Yeah. So I think I have you for 30 to 45 minutes.
I'm here for whatever. Yeah. It turns out I don't have a lot to do right now. Yeah.
I know. Talking to my friends, and they were like, our social calendars, they've just kind of opened up a little.
Yeah. It's weird how that just occurred.
Yeah. I was telling people before you got here, I was going to put on real clothes for you. And then I decided I'm on lockdown in France. I only have 8 outfits. And so I decided this will be my official.
That's amazing.
Interview.
Your official Instagram live. Yeah. I'm just wearing my Nancy.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Because that's my mood, is just sit on the couch.
I love it.
And stare at the doom. Just watch the doom. Scroll by. So this is actually a nice distraction from the.
I had to flee a country very quickly, which is a weird thing.
Was that terrifying, by the way?
It was very stressful because when I landed in France, I didn't know if I would be actually allowed or if they would turn me back because I'm a British citizen, but I landed an hour after the closure.
Ooh. So you were okay. You got in under the.
It was like moving through the first or second level of a zombie apocalypse video game. I've never seen anywhere simultaneously so empty and so tense. So I got here, but it was kind of a very last minute
Right.
thing of I wanted to be with my family in
That's
the middle
good.
of
I'm glad
nowhere.
you made it. Yeah. Geez.
Yeah. All right, look, we're 3 minutes in. We're gonna get down to business.
Let's
Are you
solve
ready?
all the writing problems.
Okay. Well, so before we get into how you write in an ordinary time, let alone an extraordinary time, I need to hear, and I think we all need to hear your origin story. So basically the 3-minute version, not the 30-minute version.
3-minute version, yeah, because that's a big story.
How did you get to be such a fancy dude?
Yeah, am I fancy? Is that what this is?
Yeah, you're fancy. You got the Star Wars fancy shine. You got the Wanderers fancy shine, which I'm reading right now and loving, even though it's highly unnerving.
Yeah, totally not relevant at all to what's happening.
Not relevant, not at all.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I very early on, I had a series, as many authors do, of just sort of failed weird jobs, and I knew I wanted to be a writer. And for a long time, I gamed. Like pen and paper games, like D&D stuff, except for the most part, I was playing a lot of weird horror games, like Vampire the Masquerade and stuff. And so the company that produces Vampire the Masquerade put out a writer's all call online. And they were kind of for lack of a better term, a pretentious company in a good way, like in a way that spoke to my soul. So I was like, the writer's all call, I'm going to write them a pretentious essay about like the internal and external loci of fear instead of just like, oh, like vampires are great. So they totally bought my nonsense and started hiring me freelance. And I did that for like 10 years. And
I was going to say, when is this? Give us a timeline.
Like 20, it's like 20 some years ago. Oh no.
You've been in it. You've been in it.
Yeah, I was in my early 20s, like 21, 22 when I started. So I did that for like 10 plus years. And all along I was still writing novels, like failing badly at writing novels.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. I wrote so many bad novels, like trunk novels in the truest sense, like bury them in the yard in a trunk so they don't get out like a poltergeist. So I was trying to write this book, Blackbirds, this Mary Black book, the first one, and I kept I was like, you ever go into a room and you don't know why you're in the room?
Yeah.
That was my experience with writing that book. I would get halfway, 3/4 through, and I would just fritter out. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. So I did what any novelist would do in that situation, which is I won a screenwriting competition. And the prize of the screenwriting competition was a year-long mentorship with a guy, screenwriter named Steven Susko, who did The Grudge and Grudge 2 and a couple other adaptations. That was his specialty, adaptations. So I kind of walked in right out of the gate and I was like, listen, I don't care about screenwriting. I don't want to write a movie. I actually just want to write this book, and I want you to help me figure that out. Like, we'll write it into a screenplay. I don't care. But I just want to figure out the story. I can't figure out the story. And he said the first thing you have to do is outline. And I said, no, I don't know how. Like, that's not a thing that we do in novel land. In Hollywood land, maybe you have to outline, but we like talk to birds. That's how we do it. That means no, you have to outline. So I did, and whatever training montage I had to endure, I endured, and I had a book. Like, I mean, it wasn't done, but like the outline showed me a complete book that I never had before, and that was the first book that I got an agent for, and it kind of hit. It took like 2 years to get it to a publisher, but it did. And,
so wait, was Blackbirds your official, kind of first book into, official traditional book publishing? Official
original IP, yeah.
I had no idea. Also, for anyone in the feed who hasn't read it, an absolutely delightful and dark and irreverent series. I'd say if anyone's fans of, Vicious, they should absolutely read it.
Yes, Vicious, spoke to me in a similar way. I was like, yes, okay.
So this is great. So we're getting a lot of people who are asking about outlining. We're actually going to, try and save some of the questions at the end, but I'll fold in the ones.
I see someone saying, so I need to outline question mark. And I have a really great answer for that. Yeah, I have a great answer for that.
Yeah, answer.
The everyone always takes the message from that story as like, well, then I need to outline. And that is totally not the answer to that story. The answer is when your process isn't working, you need to change your process. Yes. My process wasn't working and I needed to outline. Curiously, when I wrote Wanderers, I didn't outline it. I know.
But that makes sense kind of from where I am in the book right now. The arc of that story is kind of almost a discovery. I can see that would be such a grand scope of an idea. Like Addy is similar in that, when you're covering so much world or so much time or so many characters, you kind of need the room to explore them.
Yeah, and Addy came kind of that was like your soul book, right? I mean,
but I just wandered through it for 8 years. Oh, but I like this idea. So your point about it's not so much prescriptive advice to outline, but it's an understanding of when something's not working, you need to change it. For me, the reason that I would say I hate prescriptive advice, but I advise writers who are struggling or new writers to try outlining is because for me, it forces you to pick an ending.
It does, yeah.
Having an ending takes like a desert and turns it into a field. It's a place that you can traverse.
It's a good metaphor. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, some publishers are going to want them, the outlines. They don't have to be right. It's like plotting a cross-country trip. You can take as many exits as you want. You just have to try to know where you're going.
I would say you're making a map. Like, people think you're making the road, but you're really not.
No,
you're making a map.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Also, I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to wander 50,000 words in the wrong direction. It stresses me out.
Yeah, I've done that, and I turns out it's not productive.
It's not fun. Also, just because as we're both people in the industry who have our hands in lots of honeypots and have lots of different contracts, I do think that's something to speak to from a practical standpoint. Is at some point you will be asked to present a plan for something you have not written yet.
Yeah, and your sale will be based on your ability to commit. The thing I always try to tell authors is that document is a precious lie. It's a vicious, precious lie. Like, you can just lie your teeth off. It just has to sound like you know what you're talking about.
It's a clever lie. It's a convincing
clever lie. A series of clever lies, yeah.
So we start with Blackbirds, and that's, when did that first come out? Is that 8 years ago?
2012, 8 years ago, you're right. Yeah.
Math.
I know.
Crazy.
Math's amazing. Yeah.
I love that it sounds like I did way more research for this than I did. I just have known you a long time.
You nailed it.
So here's my question. So 8 years from a false start to say it's only been 8 years, but let's pretend it's books only.
Sure.
8 years. What is your relationship to creativity?
It's evolved in a way. Like, it used to be, because I came out of freelance writing so much. I always sort of had a very non-precious view of creativity. Like, it's just workers. Like, you just got to work. You just got to smack the creativity and make it work for you. Yeah. And I, to some degree, I still think that's important, right? You don't want to have a feeling that the muse is this delicate thing that you have to capture and seize, and it only happens in these key moments. And if it doesn't happen, because anytime you meet one of those sort of writers, it's like, I want to be a writer someday, and when the mood strikes me, it's like, well, the mood has to. If you have bills to pay, the mood's really got to kind of strike you all the time. But over time, I still have learned that it's almost like how I feel about writers. Writers are not snowflakes, but at the same time, we kind of are. Like, we're all a little different, and our books are all very different, and every book demands to be different in its own way and how we write it. And so I think there's that perfect interstitial terrain between, like, creativity is a weird thing you don't control, and also a thing you really have to be active in pursuing.
Have you felt like you've had a more fraught relationship with some books than others?
Oh, God, yeah. Some books, Wanderers just happened. Like, I mean, it took a long time for me anyway. But, some books are a fight. Like, this book I have now coming out, now it's been moved, because actually we moved it to get out of the way of the election. Even before the pandemic, it was like, the election's going to be a bad time for book sales. And I was like, no, just wait. Turns out, pandemic. The Book of Accidents is coming out now next July.
Okay.
And, boy, it's just been it's been a mud scrum. Was
it a fight from concept, or was it a fight once you had the concept and it became the fight was execution?
Execution. Yeah, all development. Like, I mean, I did a first draft, and it's like, I think we're on the fifth draft now, and it's like, the problem is, it's almost like, it's easier when you have a big chunk of a book, and you can just be like, well, just rip that chunk out and either stitch it together or bridge it. This is like marbled fat. Like, I'm picking arteries, like veins out. That's the kind of surgery that needs to be done on it, and make sure the whole thing still has a beating heart that doesn't die. So
I used to believe surgery was the hardest, like trying to keep something alive while you're operating on it. And then I rewrote Vengeful from scratch.
Oh God.
Like people think that book was surgery, when that book was literally like, I buried one body and then I just made a new one.
Yeah. It's Frankensteining and grave robbing. Yeah.
I do think that this is the thing. This is perhaps a contentious opinion that separates aspiring writers from authors, is not your ability to write, but your ability to survive revising.
It really is. And survive the industry and survive all of it. Yeah, survival is a hard thing. And of course, then the other side of that is survivorship bias then tends to inform how people advise other people. And they say, well, I survived it this way, and so you have to do what I did.
Exactly.
Of course, that's also nonsense. Everybody's survival is this unique contingent thing.
Which is kind of the inspiration for this entire interview series. Is like, I'm interviewing people who have vastly different processes from me. The only common thread really across my interview guests is that they've all succeeded in some way, because I specifically wanted to show that there isn't this right way to write. I mean, I quarrel with some of my closest friends when they insist, like, you cannot have an outline. And I'm like, for me, it's anxiety to not have a plan.
Yeah,
like,
usually for me too.
That's not joy. For them, it's joy to just kind of fling themselves and see this. I have gone skydiving. I didn't find it particularly joyful.
That's a similar feeling, yeah, right? Just kick out of a plane and be like, figure it out.
So what is your, like, where's your hurdle? Like, my hurdle is a first draft because I hate imperfections. Sure. Where do you feel like like, where does, like, the bad Chuck come in? Like, the nega Chuck, like, show up for you?
Yeah, like, outlining is the really hard part. Because for me, it's the part I hate the most. Mm-hmm. It's the part I generally need the most. And it's the part I hate the most. It's not that it, like, destroys magic. Because sometimes you hear that from writers, like, well, it destroys my feeling for the book and my magic. And I was like, well, wait till editing. Because
that'll kill it.
Magic is precious now. Wait till you have to edit this thing. It's a struggle to try to conceive of a story. And my outlines are usually not even for human consumption. They're just like weird sort of heretical documents that should not survive, me dying. Yeah. So it's just a struggle to figure. It's usually only like 2 or 3 days, but there are 2 or 3 miserable, unpleasant days for me to get that story mapped out.
Now, somebody said wait till reviews. What are your feelings? Like, what's your relationship to reviews? Because I feel like it's the one part for me that's gotten easier, because I've realized that, like, as long as someone connects to the book, I don't really care about the people that didn't connect to it.
Yeah, I went through the Star Wars Aftermath review.
Yeah.
Like, my scabs have turned into calluses at this point. I'm just sheer armor. I'm not sure there's any soft spots.
Trial by fire there.
Yeah, so I don't have a very precious relationship with reviews. They don't generally hurt my feelings. They're pretty fine. It's fine. I for the most part, they're working as intended. People who aren't going to like the book are an important self-selection in the way that people who like the book were, right? I mean, that's okay. I just don't like it when they send them to me. That's the part.
I know, that's my big thing too, is I feel like reviews are for readers. They're designed to help inform readership. And at the point at which, I think a lot of people don't realize, at the point at which we as authors are seeing reviews, the book is a toddler that's wandered off. Like, I'm not going to kill the child. Like, I can't do anything
but they want you
with it
to.
now.
And some people will be like, well, you need to learn. I was like what? Like, to learn what?
It's so hard, too, because I think people forget we have a whole team that is working with us to learn, and we get professional feedback all along the way. And it really does become a concept of we cannot value every voice in the room at the same volume.
Yeah, like, I have an editor, and that's who I am beholden to. And not just in a way that it's like, well, it's our corporate relationship. But I mean, my editors, I generally speaking, trust implicitly, especially like my editor at Del Rey, Trisha, is astonishingly good. Like, she's the kind of editor where you get like a 17-page edit letter and you're just like, oh, this is going to hurt. And it hurts in such good ways.
I mean, it's the true test. It's the true, people are forged by the edit letter.
Yes, they really are forged. Yeah, by a good edit letter. I've had editors who were like, I've given you like 2 sentences of things to change. You're like, this is not an edit letter. I need more. I need to be hurt more.
I was going to say, I distrust when edit letters are too kind, because I feel like they're just not being hard enough.
Yeah,
and
or
I'm
they're
like,
not doing a job.
Someone's going to be hard. I need you to be hard.
Yeah, hard now is better for later.
Okay, so conversely, do you have a part of the process that's just, do you have joy? Like, is there a joyful bit?
Oh, of the process? Yeah, I think, I mean, this is really cliched, but I actually like writing.
Yeah.
I
like writing? What?
Well, I know, but there's so many writers who are like, I don't really like the writing part. And I was like, well, then I got bad news for you. It's the part of it. It's the whole deal. So, for me, I don't know. It's the only part I really, really control is writing. At the end of the day, I don't control what an editor thinks. I don't control what the cover's going to look like. I mean, I have suggestions always, and I've been lucky that publishers listen to my completely uninformed opinions. But, the writing is where, like, I get to live and do what I'm going to do. So, I love that part, the discovery, but also the, taking that outline and using it as like a weird fraying rope and shaky flashlight through a dark forest. And that's like my favorite part. Yeah, absolutely. How about you? Like, what is your...
I like playing God, right? So I like the writing part.
Don't we all?
It's a control. I like the brainstorming part, and then the part where I'm putting the final polish on the writing. It's because it's the first time I read it as a reader instead of the writer. That moment where your brain clicks over and you realize that you're not... Oh.
This is Lola. She has a weird lump on her neck, and we don't know why.
Could it just be like a fatty tissue thing? They get dogs get fatty tissues.
Yeah, we're hoping. All right.
I mean, I had to come next door because there are like 7 animals in my house. There are so many.
Are they
animals.
Cats and dogs? Or are there other?
Well, there are cats that act like dogs and dogs that act like cats. And there are dogs that act like dogs and cats that act like cats. And then there are chickens that act like the small dinosaurs that they are. 7 of them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We have chickens in our front yard, but they're not ours. They're just there.
See, I love them because they hate me no matter what I do for them. And I think that that's a really nice reminder in the world. I think because I don't have children, like that's my reminder.
I have 2 dogs, by the way.
Oh, whereas my dog will just love me if I pay any attention. Chickens don't love you unless you actually do something.
No, chickens are not sophisticated.
So I'm trying to like get the most out of you. Hold on. I'm thinking how I want to move forward on this because I just want to deviate. I'm the writer who just like selfishly. The whole reason I'm doing this series is because I want to pick the brains of my friends and steal all of your best ideas.
Dissect away. Yeah, I'm on the.
So wait, but I am curious because you are a very public personality. I feel like at this point, I mean, you somehow became like Lin-Manuel Miranda's writer counterpart for positivity.
Yeah, I think I sort of moved through periods of life where it was like that sort of like cynical, dark, not quite goth, but like I write dark stuff, and so I must be dark on the inside. The world is just too dark, and writing is hard. What we do is very difficult, and it's a strange, lonely process. And so I feel like it's good to be, positive, and also like I try to be really weirdly positive, like not just purely earnest and authentic, but
it's like delightfully specific and very in brand. I think you're one of the only authors whose positivity truly, like, people meet me or watch my videos and like, oh, she's so positive, and then they read my books and they're like, Jesus Christ. Like,
I've had people do that on Twitter. They're like, I read your books after Twitter and I was not ready.
I know. I'm like, sorry. It's like I get it out so that I'm not keeping that in. And I mean, I think you're right. Writing is already so melodramatic that it's so like neurotic that it's good to have that balance. So what the question I was getting to there is, do you seem to have a life outside of writing?
I mean, I guess.
Kind of?
Yeah, I mean, like I have friends and I do things, but
you do things that are not publishing related?
It's hard.
Tell me more.
It's hard, and it's weird sometimes having non-writer friends. On the one hand, it's amazing because you're like, I don't want to be talking about publishing all the time, but at the same time, that's why cons and conferences are so cool, because you meet people like you or friends like Kevin and Delilah, where I'm like, let's just they can relate our experiences in a cone of silence, and everybody's like, this is a safe space, we can talk about all of the shenanigans.
I mean, it's a little bit like a creative AA. Like there's a relating to like you get
except with more alcohol
in person. I was going to say, except there is a lot of alcohol, but like you get a lot of writers together and you start to realize that there is in many ways, and historically has been a lack of creative transparency online, because there is a pressure to only talk about the good things. Like when I started, there was a sense that you didn't talk about struggles, that you wanted to present this intensely optimistic version of things. And then what the problem is,
really get that instruction.
Well, the problem is there's like kind of like an unwritten law about it. And then what I discovered as a young writer who was also on the internet is that you just feel intensely lonely all the time. And then if you see successful authors only being successful, you start to equate your own struggles with a reflection of your abilities and not the fact that writing is hard.
Yeah, and that's not a fair, accurate portrayal. No. And that's why, like, any sort of positivity I bring online is always sort of that, like, it's not, I'm trying not to make it that toxic positivity of be like, you just need to work harder, buckaroo. But, like, no, I mean, this is hard, and it's okay that it's hard. It's
about de-romanticizing it and making it realistic, and also reminding everyone that it's not coal mining. It's like, you have to find a way to remember that it's playful. But I want to get back to the fact that you have friends in your life who don't know things about publishing. Because one of the best things I ever had was get a friend like that, because I told her I hit the New York Times this one week, and she was like, that was great. Do you want tacos for dinner? And I was like, this is great. You don't know shit. Like, you were just like happy for me, and we moved on.
Yeah, and that's the best. That is the best. Yeah. Like, I have a friend who's a musician, and he gets like, he understands like the alternate world version, like a different, it's like he's from a different timeline where writing never existed, and he understands a weird creative corporate struggle.
But in general, like, there are also people who are just like, oh, that's our writer friend. He's cool, but like, let's move on to the fear. Yeah,
let's talk. Yes, exactly. Let's talk about food or politics or whatever. Not worry about.
It's so grounding, because I do feel like we exist in a creative microcosm where everything just gets loud.
Well, and you also don't just like sort of, when you come back to the page, you don't just have writers filling your head with more writing stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you meet actual human beings who don't have any care in the world. And it also reminds you too that Twitter is a completely echo chambery, very small place. As much as it feels huge when you're bombarded or whatever happens on there, it's like you go outside and neighbors are like, I don't know who you are.
I guess what it is it's good to have writer friends online, and it's good to have non-writer friends offline, because like it's good to have people that can pull you away, and that's good, because I'm seeing several people saying that they don't have enough writer friends, and writing communities are things you can find online. Non-writing friends are amazing, and everyone should have them at all times.
Keep them in your basement.
Keep them in your basement, do what you need to do, put them next to the whiskey, like they like a nice, cool, dark environment. Yeah,
oubliettes. Writers should all have a series of oubliettes that you preserve.
So, here's a question. How many things do you work on at one time?
Almost always one. I'm now at a point where I just kind of try to work on one. I mean, it depends on work on. You know what I mean? Like, work on like if I'm writing a draft of something, it's one. I don't necessarily do multiple things, because I'm just not that smart. I can't keep that many things in my head at any given time.
It's tiresome.
If I try to drive on two roads at one time, I will crash. So, but I mean, I do have always other, there's other projects sort of churning, and either with a publisher or in an outline phase, or every once in a while, if it's a different creative medium, whether it's comics or film and TV or something like that, I can separate. I can go get a lunch, and then afternoon can be devoted toward that thing separate, because it flexes weirdly different muscles for me.
No, I feel like the only time I can juggle projects is when they're in different mediums. And like things I can do while traveling, a thing we used to do, and then things I can do while sitting at home.
It's weird, by the way, how like stuff used to feel like normal things don't feel normal.
No,
anymore.
I like watched a TV show and everyone was at a party, and I thought, this feels completely unrealistic.
Yeah, I was watching Ugly Delicious on Netflix, and they're like out at dinner, and I was like, those people are all sick. Get out of there.
Too close together.
Yeah,
I do think it's gonna change. I mean, I definitely am having that reaction to almost everything I'm watching now. But the reason I asked about this multitasking is I have this theory that most creators have a 6-burner stove in their head. And they have like one project on a very high heat.
Yeah.
But there are things that you're percolating on low heat, which I think creates the illusion that writers always have like 50 million projects in the works, when they're really like seedlings. They're ingredients that are managed.
They're at different stages of growth. Like sometimes you have this little sprout, and sometimes it's just a seed pocket. And but once it starts growing, it's like, I got to ride this beanstalk to wherever it's going.
Then you kind of have to. I think especially for someone like you or like me who juggles a variety of kinds, because our projects don't all take place in the same world where you can slide fluidly between them. Like your projects have an extreme stylistic dissonance. Like you do not stay in one, even though you're always under like SFF usually. Like I don't feel like your voice feels like there's one voice. Like I don't think there's like, I can always tell when a book is a Chuck Wendig book, but I don't feel like it feels like you're the narrator.
Yeah, no, I try to make that work. Yeah, I try to make it feel like it's appropriate to each. Like every book, that's the thing. It took me a long time to get to, is that every book is its own really weird animal, and you've got to learn to tame the weird animal.
I get jealous. Like sometimes sometimes it's fast. For most of the time, for me, it's not fast at all.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I have to know, because this is a question I'm asking everybody.
All right, okay.
What is the best advice that you've gotten?
That's hard. Like, I mean, early on for me, again, it was that whole outlining thing, and it wasn't because, again, the outlining is some precious special thing that every writer has to do, but it was like, I really was stubborn about how I thought I wrote books, and which was not an earned opinion. I was young. I never had anything published book-wise, just short.
That's when we're most proud.
Yeah, exactly. We're at our most proud when we are not yet involved in the actual industry of writing. And I was so sure I knew what I was doing, and I didn't. I just didn't, and I needed to be told that I didn't know what I was doing, and that it was important to question that kind of at every stage. And so I've approached that since, and it wasn't just about learning to outline, but it was about having that sense of like, no, I don't really know what I'm doing. And that's really important to know that I don't know what I'm doing. It doesn't mean that, writing advice is nonsense. I always say that writing advice is bullshit, but bullshit still fertilizes. I mean, there's value in it as long as you recognize what that value is, which is not truth.
I feel like, you're my first guest, but I feel like a common factor that is going to show up, if I had to like predict, that's going to show up across all of these interviews, is that the authors who become successful, not that this is like a prerequisite, but looking at the successful authors I'm going to interview, that they, at a vital part, they chose to listen.
Yeah.
Because like listening when you realize that you are not the best that you will ever be, and in order to get better, you will have to listen.
Yeah. To an
it's
editor,
a hard
to a
thing
friend,
to do.
To a reader, to whoever,
Yeah, like listening to the idea that, like, it's that willingness to accept feedback. Willingness to accept feedback. Because I was most resistant to it, like, when I was in college.
Yeah, and you're still allowed to be resistant to it, but, like, you gotta, like, the guard has to eventually come down. You've got to,
but in order to understand your gut feeling and your gut taste and your gut following, like, you have to start to parse the difference between good feedback and bad feedback. In order to do that, you have to be willing to try.
Yeah. And you know what, another important thing to parse and have that fight is early on, I sort of absorbed that lesson of kill your darlings, right? Yes. The idea that, like, well, you've got these preening precious peacocks in the draft, and if they're not really singing for you and they don't belong there, they're just peacocks. You've got to chop their poor little peacock heads off. But then, like, later on, and this really happened with Star Wars, that I started to also learn that you have to figure out which hills you're willing to die on. There are some darlings that must remain, and you must fight for those darlings because they're why you're there. They're why your name is on that book. At the end of the day, there's no one else whose name is big on that cover. It's ideally big on that cover, except you. And so you have to be willing to know, if you are going to go to bat for something, why you're going to bat for it, and that there are some things really worth against editor, against, like, I had some early kind of things with Wanderers, not with our publisher, but with some other publishers that they wanted a very different book, and I was like, I just knew that was not the right thing. It may have been better for them, but it wasn't better for me and for what my vision was.
It's interesting, and I feel like this is one of the weirdest differences that I'm learning I'm doing TV writing now as well, and, like, as an author, your name is on the cover, you're the dog. You're gonna, at the end of the day, I feel like people don't realize that, like, a good editor, they make us ask questions and they make us push ourselves, but at the end of the day, like, the author has the say, because it's the author's name on the book. But, like, in screenwriting and in TV writing, you discover that, like, not only are there many cooks in the kitchen, but you will often have to give them what they want, even if you know that it's wrong, so that they can decide that it's wrong, so that they can tell you to take it out. And I will say, nothing has made me less precious. Like, it's forced me to be like, you know what, I'll humor you. And maybe it will work, and maybe it won't, but I found that it's freeing up. I'm such a perfectionist in my head when it comes to book writing, when it comes to every word choice. That, like, forcing me to just kind of sketch something out is a very freeing thing. And so one thing I actually discovered recently was going into a book that I hadn't had a really easy time grasping my plot line. I started writing it as a pilot because it wasn't precious anymore.
Yeah, right.
And it changed everything.
Yeah, the Blackbirds came out of me, having that process. And then the first outline for Blackbirds was a screenplay.
I love it. So I think that's a thing. I'm noticing several comments who have been like, how do we find the voice? How do we find these missing pieces? And I sometimes find that allowing yourself to play between mediums might help you. Like, maybe you need to start with the dialogue. Maybe you need to figure out what is the analogy I always use is a color palette. Like, what is our soundtrack? What is our palette? What is our
You're just trying to unlock. just how do you unlock the thing? There's a key.
And I think people assume we don't still have to like continually try to unlock. We are just always playing.
Always. Yeah, it's not, no one knows what they're doing. We do not know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing.
How many books do you have out now?
Over 20.
Yeah, over 20. Yeah. All right. This is the hard question. Maybe it's going to be super easy for you.
Okay. All right.
Because, so I have to preface this. I was at a convention last year because that was a thing we used to do. Like 20,000 people in one place, right? I was at a convention and I was talking to an actor. An actor who is now the lead on The Expanse, Stephen Strait.
Yeah, of course. I remember your journey with this.
But
sure. Yeah.
Everyone who came to see him at this convention was coming to see him because of his role on Sky High when he was a teenager, a Disney movie.
Really?
Because he played the fire-starting bad boy. And I was talking to him about this, and he said, you know what? Like, at the end of the day, you never get to pick what makes you famous.
Yeah.
And I think about this a lot because, like, A Darker Shade of Magic is probably my best-known book, up until Addy, hopefully. But, like, I wouldn't have picked, I mean, it's my 8th novel. I wouldn't have picked it to be the book that did what it did versus Vicious, stuff like that. I love them all. I love all my books. But I'm wondering, you'll never get to choose. But if you did get to choose and only one of your books would outlive you, what would it be?
I don't want it to be the Star Wars books.
Okay.
And it's not because I don't adore Star Wars very deeply. It's just because I don't own those. And I don't mean like own those in a legal way.
Yeah, it's not yours.
Also, I certainly don't own those, or this would be my castle.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't own those emotionally either. Like they belong to a story world and story wars. I mean, probably Wanderers, just because it's like, and I say that maybe because we're kind of living it a little bit right now, and so it's kind of
very relevant
for me. But it's a book that I am the most proud of, and it's the book that happened in the weirdest way, and I feel like I kind of did it. Like, like if I never write a book that good, I'll at least know I wrote a book that I'm really happy with.
That is the best feeling. And I'm so happy that you've had that. That was my Addy, where I finished Addy after 8.5 years. And I thought
I'm excited for that book.
Well, I thought to myself, if I never, congratulations, one is coming your way, just because friends. But I thought to myself, if I never write another book, I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
And not to say I don't want to. I feel like that caused, I feel like I said it and all 4 of my editors in New York were like, I felt a tremble. Like, they were very upset.
There's a shift in the force,
I think I got to the point where I was afraid I was going to die without finishing it. Like, I had a point where I was like, this can be the book I've never written.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, I'm glad I did. I felt like this immense exile. The converse of that, and I'm curious if you felt this, and I'm not sure, maybe it's because of how long Addy was with me, or maybe it's just because it was the book I really felt I could only tell once. That story you can only tell once. I had a month-long grieving process after finishing Addy. Yeah. Did you grieve after Wanderers?
Yeah, Wanderers was coming out of a sensory deprivation tank or a cave or coming out of a quarantine. I don't know what it was. Yeah, it definitely had the feeling of I needed to sit and just play video games and watch movies and do very little and could make dinner. Just it was just simple things were clarifying, and even thinking about other books was not.
Could you do that? I struggled a lot in that I knew I needed to grieve and just sit with not writing for a month or so. But I also felt like I felt a deep-seated panic of, will I ever write another book like Addy? And do I need to be seeding my fallow soil with future Addies and all of these kinds of things? You obviously had more peace with the process.
No peace. And I still don't have the peace. I'm always on the one hand, I'm very happy that I've written Wanderers, and if I never write another book that way or like that again, I'm good. But at the same time, I'm I feel like I'm kind of chasing that dragon, and not for the audience, not for sales, but just for me. Just that my sort of emotional state is always kind of So on the one hand, it's nice to achieve that plateau of peace, but you also recognize there's another plateau.
Exactly. Authors are just constantly. I mean, because this is the weird dynamic that people don't think. You write a debut novel, right? Yeah. And your hope is both that it is good and that it is the worst thing you will ever write.
Yes. Yeah, and that the next thing will clearly be better and will sell better and everyone will get more. Yeah.
My stress dreams circle around the words, her last book was better.
Oh, yes.
That's the pinnacle of my stress dream right there.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm only halfway through Wanderers right now, and because it's a beast.
It's a beast. It's a beast.
It's a beautiful, beautiful beast. I have to tell you, having read not all 20, but like many, many of your books, Wanderers is an absolute feat.
Thank you. It's a very different book for me. Yeah.
It is, but it's beautiful, and it deserves all of the accolades that it has gotten. It deserves all of the comparisons. I just think, weirdly, it's the right book to read right now, as unsettling as that is.
People told me that, which I'm like, are you sure? Are you all right?
I mean, it's because here's the thing, right? I'm assuming it has an ending.
It does. Yes,
I'm not there yet, but we don't have an ending for what we're going through right now. So maybe it's nice to have an ending.
The good news is, I think what we're going through right now is not as bad. That's my one takeaway there. Wanderers is much, much worse. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you. Like, you're an absolute joy. I love getting a little bit of insight into your brain.
Well, this has been a pleasure. Yeah, no, I mean, you're one of those authors who is killing it, just killing it, and you're like, really?
It's an illusion. It's an illusion.
How old are you? No, you don't have to tell me.
No, I'm 32. So I started when I was 21.
Oh my God!
I know.
That's you have an astonishing career, and you have so much to go.
Chuck, I'm an 85-year-old man in my heart, and I'm just living like a 32-year-old skin suit. But I'm just waiting for the day I get to just like stand on my front lawn with a cane. I mean, I already kind of do it. I'm already like, these youngins don't know how hard it was in 2009.
You're already. You're in good shape.
I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. You know it is. You're only as good as your next book.
Yeah, you're only as good as your next book.
Like,
but that's not
true.
I
say that. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah,
it's a lie. Like, people are
you're standing on a massive mountain of goodness.
People are still discovering like blackbirds, and people are still discovering Nearwitch. And I think we always think that books expire somehow because we're trained in publishing to think of them as like new and backlist.
Yeah, I think you and I are both very privileged in the sense that our books will actually outlive us. Which is unusual to think. I didn't know that way in 5 years, but I feel like
I feel like Wanderers has earned its place on that shelf of record.
Well, thank you. All your books are on the shelf. You're an astonishing producer of glorious storytelling.
And now a mediocre video live host. But I have to say, I lift my glass to you. Thank you for taking this time. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your really nice day there.
Empty. Yeah, it's actually kind of gray, but I've got there's flowers. I mean, it's all right.
It's nice. You got birds. There's apples.
Birds. I got birds and dogs. I mean, it could be worse. Yeah.
Chuck, I hope our paths cross in person again when this is over. One day we'll
be let out of our cages and we'll
join
again.
Thank you, everyone who tuned in and made this an absolutely delightful
Thank you, everybody.
day.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Cheers, you and everybody.
Cheers.